recording. I'll be sharing with us the recording and the slide deck that our speaker for today, Eunice Kilonzo, will be using. So in case you miss out on anything or you want to refer to anything, or in case there are any links shared or files that you will miss during the session, I'll be sharing them. I'll be sharing them with you at the end of our session today. So welcome once again to our session. We'll be taken through by Eunice Kilonzo, who's not only an award-winning journalist, but she's been a fellow and has applied for grants, many grants, I will tell you that, over the years, which she's gotten and produced the deliverables that are required of the fellowship. So she'll be taking us through how to write successful grant applications and the challenges that come with applying for the grants, and also managing expectations in terms of the deliverables that are required of the fellowships or the grants that she has applied for. I believe she'll introduce herself better when she comes on. Otherwise, karibu sana, and I enjoy the session.
Thank you so much, Rose. You know, when you hear people talk about you, for a moment they're like, oh my God, is that me? Is that me? So happy to be here. Thank you all for making time to join. I'm truly grateful. Before I start, Rose, please allow me to just ask for us just to celebrate a life of one of our own WanaData member, Elizabeth Merab, who passed on Saturday. It's going to be a week tomorrow. Just, you know, she was an active WanaData member, and I'm sure we all, you know, for the journalists in the room, we all got to interact with her. So maybe, I don't know, like a 15 seconds of silence before I start, if that's okay, Rose?
That's very okay.
Okay, sawa. So yeah, we can do that. Okay, I'm hoping the 15 seconds are done. For those who are joining us, we just had a 15 second of silence for Merab, who passed on Saturday last week. She was an active member of WanaData, and I'm sure had she been around, she would have joined this session, because there's a lot I learned from her, and you know, we shared around fellowships and grants application. Okay, so I'll share my screen now. I'm sharing my screen. Hoping you can all see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I'm presenting on Canva, and those who know me know that I'm a huge fanatic, if I was to use that word, of Canva. Let me make this smaller so that I don't get distracted. 1 second. Oh, like that. Okay, so so thank you all for joining. My name is Eunice, as Rose had introduced me to you. I love telling stories. I'm a trained journalist. I worked at the Nation Media Group for close to 5 years. And then I moved on from there. I went to work with scientists and researchers. You know, and then I left that. I went and worked at UNEP. Currently, you know, supporting and working at Safaricom, supporting storytelling at Safaricom. But in between, I've also consulted for a number of other UN agencies. And really, what I'm trying to say is that all these opportunities, all these places that I've been into, have really been as a result of how I presented myself. how I told my story, which then is a transferable skill for, if you're thinking about applying for fellowships or for applying for grants, you need to be able to tell your story very well and align yourself to the objectives and the needs of where you're applying to. So that's what I would want us to think about, or just to have in mind as we go into this presentation. So as a disclaimer, I do not know everything. These are just lessons and experiences from what I have gained and gathered over the close to 15 years that I've been telling stories, formally and informally, and how I was able to tell some of the stories because of the funding that I got or some of the fellowships that I got. So yeah, yeah, so that's me. I wear glasses most times, but yeah. But besides that, I tell stories for a living. I write. I'm a strategic communicator. I do media engagement, media support, just media, anything media, and journalism is something that I'm very passionate about. But also I work around thought leadership, in terms of health, health content, including tech and many other areas where I've been fortunate enough to gain skills in, and also training. Training is also one of the other passions that I have. So you can look me up. You can find me on the various platforms. So just to start us off, I know for those who are here, you're probably wondering, okay, so what should I apply for? Should I apply for a grant, or should I apply for fellowships? And usually, some people think it's one and the same thing, but it's not. And I'll show you, the differences where, what grants is and what fellowships are. So grants fund specific projects or initiatives. So let's say, and I'll give an example as we proceed in my presentation, is that grants, if you work in a newsroom, grants are what, a newsroom would say, we want a team to go and do stories in Turkana about, tourism in Turkana or whatever. It's very specific on certain initiatives. It's not for everything. It's very specific. Fellowships, on the other hand, they are sometimes for individual journalists. They could be specific, but sometimes they are a bit wide. So they would say we want science journalists. So you could be a science journalist who writes exclusively on science and environment. You could be a science journalist who does health. So it's a bit wider. Again, as the first point, they're project-based proposals, and then the duration is based on the project. So if the newsroom says we're providing a grant for, say, 1 year, it is 1 year. On the other hand, for fellowships, usually it could be 3 months, it could be 1 year. I know I think the longest I've had about a fellowship lasting is about 12 months. Some will go maybe up to 24 months, but usually they're not too long because they're very individual based. They're not institutional. They're more for you as a journalist or for you as a storyteller. And so the grants, the other difference is grants cover project expenses and related costs. So for instance, you're providing a grant, you're given a grant for you to go to Turkana. So then your flights, if at all, your accommodation, etc. Fellowships, on the other hand, usually are stipends, so you're going to be going for a conference, for instance, and I know conferences usually do a lot of fellowships. So like the recently Women Deliver, conference in Kigali. So they'll have journalists, then they'll provide your daily stipend and maybe a living allowance or something like that. Then the other differences between grants and fellowships is that they focus on specific journalistic endeavors, while fellowships, support research, reporting, and in-depth investigation. So sometimes, for grants, there could be a bit of a gray area on this point, because sometimes they could say, we want you to support research around whatever it is that the grant is about. So, but then again, there's a very huge difference, stark difference, that this one is on specific journalistic endeavors going to Turkana, while this other one, it's again wider, research, reporting, and in-depth investigations on science or whatever else. Grants, because sometimes they're done or they're provided for by the media house, then it means that you have a bit limited networking opportunities, because you're probably interacting with the person who's giving you the grant. So it could be your boss or the HR or the finance people. But the fellowships, and you will see the beauty of fellowships, that you become one of many other fellows. So like for the fellowships that I have attended, I was one of, say, 15 other journalists across the world. So then there's a bit more networking, there's a lot more mentorship, because then you interact with different, skill sets, different people, different, from different geographies, and that helps you to open up your mind on the opportunities that exist in journalism and in storytelling as well. Deliverables for grants usually is the completion of the proposed project. You are sent to Turkana, you need to do 3 stories from Turkana, you do 3 stories from Turkana. Deliverables on this other side, it's in addition to the published work or the research findings, of course, the mentorship, because sometimes fellowships will say, we want to link, the scientists with the journalists. So there's a lot more deliverables that, you've created a network, you're part of a network. So those are some of the deliverables that are checked against fellowships. And then, and finally, opportunity to demonstrate impact and secure additional funding. So sometimes one grant leads you to the next one. So you went in for a grant like the one that my colleagues and I got while we were at Nation to go and do health stories in the counties. And we ended up, getting another round of grants for us to do other kinds of stories, but pegged on the first grant. Fellowships, most times, usually, after the fellowship, then you become a fellow, then there's no follow-up to it. Usually it's, oh, cheers, thank you. Then they look for another round of fellows. So there are pros and cons for it that, once you're done with the fellowship, it's good, it's a nice title, and then that's it. Sometimes they call back the previous fellows, but it's not always. So there are more, the opportunities varies. If you want to go the grant way, then you have a more possibility of you showing impact and then getting additional funding. But for fellowships, it might not always be the case. So perhaps there's someone here and they're thinking, okay, yeah, I've had UNIS, grants, fellowships, why should I apply? Why should I spend time? Because applying for any of these things, as you know, applying for anything really takes a lot of time. So why should you apply? Why you should apply? I think for me, I narrowed them down into 4 main areas. One, you'll get access to resources. And here resources, not just the money, the mentors, the experts that you maybe would not have had an interaction with, who then you can work with for in-depth and impactful projects. The beauty of whether it's a grant or a fellowship is that the contacts and the networks that you build usually you can stay on, and you can call on some of those experts for the longest time. You can always go back and say, I'm doing something else on tourism in Turkana or tourism in Marsabit. So there's always that, you can always go back to those resources. The other thing is the unique learning opportunities. For those who are thinking about, say, the Falling Walls Fellowship, you will go to Berlin. I'd never been to Berlin before. I'd never been to the heart of science in Europe, where, it's very thriving, it's very exciting. And so for me, it was very, unique learning because, having been a Kenyan journalist, working with the colleagues in the East African community, you only see things from one level. But then when you go out there, you get a bit more, and even just sitting with other journalists, you learn how they talk or how they do their stories is sometimes very different to how you actually see and do your own stories. The other thing is that it enhances your career through new skills and recognition. You go all alone to a fellowship, for instance. You don't have a camera person, you have your phone. So you learn how to do video recording on your phone. You learn how to write quickly, how to tweet and such things. So then you're building new skills that if you are seated in the newsroom, for instance, you'd only be writing copy or only be taking photos. But when you go for these fellowships, and usually they have even trainings, so and training not just on what the fellowship is about, in terms of the content etc., but also how, the technical aspects, how to do video, how to do photos. And that helps you because, again, no learning is wasted. Whatever you learn today will be useful to you tomorrow. And I tell you this from experience, having been a journalist in the newsroom and being out of the newsroom and working, with the, at a telecommunications company, those skills have always helped me. Those skills have always been very helpful for me. So no learning is wasted. And of course, you expand your network. So you become a member of some prestigious fellowships or grants. You also get exposed to new readers. When they announce Eunice Kilonzo is our fellow, I was a fellow in 2016 to the German media and to the German audiences. Those are people who would ordinarily have never heard about me, but now they know about me, and some of them actually followed and they keep tabs, with the work that I do to date. So think about that as an opportunity for you to grow and expand your networks. let me see, I'm seeing there's some charts. Okay, I see, okay. Okay, sour. I don't think there's anything for me to take on yet. And so, yeah, so now that you know why it is important, now I'll talk about some of the fellowships that I have done to date. And so, sorry, this, I usually don't have very wordy slides, but there was no escaping on this one. So whatever is in yellow are all awards that I got. Whatever is in white are fellowships that I got. So, so I actually extracted this from my CV, you know, and it's good for you to show, you know, if whatever you're applying for, because, you know, for some of these for these fellowships, grants, etc., they'll ask for your CV. So it's good for you to just keep updating. And you'll notice that I start from the most recent one up to the most, you know, the most older one. So that way it's easier for someone to follow through and say, oh, actually she's been very active from 2015 to date. So that shows them that, you know, you're constantly learning, you're constantly building your skills, etc. But now if I talk about some of the fellowships that I've done, so in 2021, I was the African Regional Fellow for the, you know, for the Lancet and Financial Times Digital Global Health Commission. So what this particular commission was doing was, you know, identifying opportunities for global health, and then asking ourselves, where are the young people in this discussion? And now that we know young people are important, we need to have young people brought in to review some of these projects, some of these ideas, and see how, you know, how they work. How did I get this opportunity? I applied for it. So I'm in a network. Again, goes back to why you should apply. I'm in a network which formed, you know, from previous other engagements. And someone posted on the group and they said, we're looking for someone who's passionate about global health, you know, digital global health, and, you know, for a fellowship. I said, I have nothing to lose, you know, and I hope that's something that you also think about. When you see opportunities, you have nothing to lose. I mean, you're not sending a letter by poster, you know, writing a letter, putting it in an envelope, sending it, going, no. All these things are digital. So the worst, or the, you know, the hardest thing is you just putting in your submission. So I said, I have nothing to lose. So I reached out, I said, I'm interested. So they asked, okay, what have you done around global health, digital global health? I said, oh, I used to be a journalist. You know, I wrote about WanaData. Currently where I work, I do 1, 2, 3. They said, okay, so share with us your CV. And, you know, of course, they told me this is what the commission is about. This is what we need you to do. And then now I answered how I was a fit for those needs. The other one that I also got a fellowship in 2021. In fact, in 2021, I had 3 fellowships. One ended, then the second one, then the third one, like that. And they are down for Amplify Multimedia Storytelling Fellow. The Mastercard Foundation and Africa CDC were trying to find ways to tell COVID stories in a way that is factual. And it didn't matter whether you're a journalist or you're out of the newsroom. And I said, again, you know, would it hurt for me to try this? And I tried and I got in. Again, they were very clear. This is what you're looking for. Can you write about, you know, COVID? And then, you know, creativity, And I applied. I said, I have nothing to lose. I applied. The other one also in 2021 was the Bilharzia Storytelling Labs. And by the way, for the journalists in the room, please, you know, you can look up some of these fellowships. Some of them are actually, they are concurrently running. So check them out, apply. Like, you have nothing to lose, guys. If you see something that you like, you know, not just the fellowship, but also the awards, just go ahead and apply, because that's how I did it. I probably, when I was reading, when I was doing my research on other things, I stumbled on this, I put it aside, I said, I'll apply for this, and it opened up opportunities for me. The other ones, as I mentioned, in 2016, I was one of the Falling Walls Science Fellow. And during our time, Falling Walls actually paid for our flights, paid for like literally, I just had to go and tell stories. And now as a journalist, as a Kenyan journalist, when I went there, of course, I looked for Kenyan scientists who are making presentations during this conference. And then I told their story alongside. So my being in Berlin was not the story. You know, the story was, what took me there was the science, you know, the science and the health and the environmental stuff that I was going to cover for my newspaper, but supported through this fellowship. So you going for these nice opportunities, it's not a story. You know, what is the story is the impact and what you're going to do there. And then the other also exciting one that I did a year later after following was the Neglected Tropical Diseases Fellow in Geneva. So this one was done through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I mean, for me, I'd been writing about, about health. So the other thing that I want to mention is that some of these fellowships, people might actually send them to you because they see the work that you do. So keep doing, if you're really good in environmental reporting, keep reporting, keep sharing, because you do not know who's reading. Because even for me, like for this Neglected Tropical Diseases Fellowship, I simply was handpicked. I was told, Eunice, we've seen the stories that you do. Would you be interested in this fellowship? The other one that, so write and tell your story. Then the other white one is the 2015 Journalism and Climate Change Fellowship. And I think for me, this particular 2015 fellowship changed my life completely. It was a whole year of fellowship. So it started off, so basically they were trying to find people who can write about climate change. And me being, when you think about climate change, most times people, write about the environment this, environment that, climate that. But for me as a health and science journalist, I went in with a different lens. And I would urge you also, whatever it is that you write about, if you write about financing, how is financing linked or affected by climate change? If you write about education, how is education going to be affected? So you're not only going to be writing about things that you're not entirely passionate about, but you're going to bring in your passion into that fellowship. And so I actually, my application for this particular fellowship was, I was going to tell health stories and the linkage between health and climate change. And I got in. And so the whole year, so we started off with being trained at UNEP. And then we went, I think, to Voi in Savo to go and see some climate change projects. And then we went to Paris in July during summer, and it was amazing. Like it opened my mind to the opportunities that fellowships, open up, because there are things that you can only know until you step out of this country. There are things that, I mean, Kenya is amazing, but going to learn from other journalists elsewhere opens up your mind. And then later on in December, we covered COP21 in Paris as well. So for me, you don't know what that fellowship can open doors. It can start off very simple, but then it grows and morphs and becomes bigger. So the other ones in yellow are all awards. And so some of these awards, some of them, actually all of them I submitted, including the 2021, winner of the United Untold Global Health Stories. I would urge those who are in this room, who are watching, who are listening, and you're passionate about health and science, look up NPR Goats and Soda. It's an amazing platform for storytelling and just seeing how other people do their stories. Because that way, when you're applying for your next fellowship, your next grant, you won't be thinking about he said, she said kind of stories. You'll be thinking about in-depth, multidimensional kind of stories that add value to your reader, but also builds your skills as a storyteller. And then now, if I move to some of the courses that I have done as a result of applications that I did in 2018, while out of the newsroom, I actually applied to the Graduate Institute in Geneva in Switzerland. And so for those who know me, and if you haven't already picked it, I love health. And so at the time I was working at a research institution, APHRC, that's African Population and Health Research Center. But they looked them up, great organization. They have nice opportunities and a lot to learn around health and science. And so while I was there, I kept thinking how I want to build my global health diplomacy skills. And here diplomacy is a very interesting term to bring in, because looking at how foreign policy is interplaying with global health. Why did I apply for this opportunity? Is because at the time I was doing my master's at the University of Nairobi, and I was doing something around international relations with a key focus on diplomacy. Here I am with a passion for health. So then I said, I will marry those two and I'll find a way of learning and building my skills. So when I literally just searched global health diplomacy, this course came up. And so when I looked at it, I was like, oh my God, it's expensive. I don't know if I'll be able to get it. What will happen? I just wrote to them. Sometimes some of these grants and fellowships, you just write. And I wrote to them and I told them, I see this is an interesting cause. I'm so-and-so, I'm my health, I also love diplomacy, blah, blah, blah. I was wondering if you guys have scholarships. And so I sent it. Did I think they would ever respond? I was like, probably 100 other people have written the same thing, but I said, you know what, I might as well try. So I wrote to them, you know, a nice, and then I attached my CV. I attached also, because it's an institution, it's an education institution, also attached my transcript up to when, you know, up to that level. And they got back and they said, oh, Eunice, actually, yeah, we are more than happy to sponsor you, to pay for you the tuition for this course. However, you need to find your way here. So I needed to find my flights and accommodation. So I went back to my employer because I didn't have the money. I mean, flights at the time, I think they were about, return was about 150, 200K. I could be wrong. Then there's the visa fees, then there's the insurance. But I said, you know what? I want to go for this course. I'll reach out to my employer. So I go to my employer. So here I'm asking for a grant to my employer. It's very specific, you know, and I told them, I am going for this course. I mean, rather, I've been given a scholarship for this course. And like the course itself was about maybe to the upwards of about 4M or thereabouts. Already I've jumped that hurdle. So I told them, if you can sponsor me, you know, you can pay for me my flights. When I come back, I am going to, you know, first of all, set up or at least begin discussions around global diplomacy. It was a research institution, health research institution. And then we don't know what, you know, I don't know what else could come up from this, but, you know, I have a track record of delivering. So give me this opportunity, you know, I'm asking for this opportunity. Fortunately, my employer at the time actually had just started a grant system where if you're a staff, every year you get a certain amount of funding for you to go and do whatever course. So the amount of money I was asking for was actually provided for through that grant. And that's how I found myself in this course, sitting next and, you know, brushing shoulders with some big shots and people that I only saw in books and stuff. And I was there. I was probably the youngest, probably the most, you know, novel of all. And I got in and I did, you know. So what I'm trying to say is sometimes don't limit yourself, you know, thinking, oh, it's too big. It doesn't look like something. Please apply. The worst they can say is no. And besides, is again, you didn't send a letter by posta, by courier services. It's all on email. It's literally almost free. So just try it. So, so I got that. And from that opportunity, again, no learning is wasted. I came back with a different perspective about, you know, global health diplomacy, changed how I looked at my master's, changed completely how my topic looked like. And again, whatever skills I gained, whatever in this pipeline, I always just pick it and ask myself, how else can I use this moving forward? So that's the 2018 one. Then the other one was the NMG grant. So myself, Vera Okeo, and Jacqueline Kubane, we were in the newsroom. And that at the time, the evolution was, you know, speaking up, people were asking themselves, is it working, is it not? And so actually Vera is the one who pitched this grant idea to our boss at the time, Mutuma, and she told him, we would want to go to the counties and see how health, you know, is operating and how things are working. And Mutuma said, how many people do you want to go? He said, oh, you know, myself, you know, Eunice and Jackie. He said, okay, you guys go. How much do you need for your accommodation? X amount. How much do you need for transport? X amount. And as journalists, you know, you don't even know where you're going, but you have your money in your pocket, you have your sources on the ground. And I was out. We were out. I went to Bomet. I think Vera went to Kos. And I think Jackie went to Central. I can't remember right now, but we went out and we did amazing stories because we saw, at least Vera saw the challenge that was there. She roped us in and we ran with it. So that's the same thing I would ask you, you know, as journalists, as storytellers. Sometimes you don't need to be the one who holds the vision. You know, you don't need to be the one who knows everything. Other people might be doing something and you can ask, can I be part of this team? So don't ever feel like, oh, only certain people can do certain things in the newsroom. Look around. If someone else is doing and you want to be part of it, you know, offer yourself and say, I'm more than happy to take that opportunity and to learn with you. So that's how I got the course and the grant. So what I did, again, it's a wordy slide. I don't like wordy slides, but bear with me. So what I did to get all the scholarships, and I've alluded to some of the things here, is that I checked the eligibility, you know, they're looking for science and health journalists. If it was something around, you know, we're looking for political writers, I wouldn't apply for it. Sometimes we want to do everything while you should only be targeted. So check your eligibility, check if they say you should be, I don't know, 35 by the time of application, please just be 35. Don't be 40 and masquerading as 35-year-old. Because eventually when they go and they, you know, they ask for your passport, you know, and they see that you actually are lying, Imagine how bad that looks. It's there, but then it's not there. You're given the opportunity, then it's pulled away, it's snatched away from you. So check the eligibility, check the application requirements. If they tell you, do a one-page cover letter, please do a one-page. Do not be tempted to, I want to tell them all the nice things I've ever done in, I don't know, I go all out 3 pages, and your CV, they say CV should only be 4 pages. Please stick to the requirements, because mark you are about 500 or plus other people who are applying. Why would someone who's recruiting spend 15 minutes on your 20-page CV, and they were very clear they wanted 4 pages. The moment they stop reading at 4 pages, that's it. So you don't want to be disqualified because you did not follow instructions, follow instructions and expectations. If they say this fellowship will require travel, or this fellowship will require you to do 10 stories, please have a meeting with yourself and ask yourself, will I actually be able to deliver? If you know you will not be able to deliver, do not apply. Because what that does is that you're taking an opportunity that would have been utilized by someone else, or and just blocking it for other people. If you know you're not ready for that fellowship or grant, step back. You don't need to, and there's always going to be a next time. So you don't have to do everything just because people are doing them. And then you need to do thorough research. I've said, some of the fellowships that I've been part of, or some of the grants that I've gotten, if you are interested in some of them, look them up. By looking them up, ask yourself, who are the people who are past fellows? What did they learn? What are the previous initiatives that they funded? So that you're not, again, doing things out of the blues that are not entirely tied to, what these people are looking for. And then if you see past fellows, you can reach out to them and say, oh, I see you actually are past Falling Walls fellow. Can you give me pointers? In fact, that's what I did in 2016, because there was someone and a mentor, actually, it's called Wanjohi. He had been a fellow, I think in 2014 or 2013. So when I went onto the Falling Walls site and I saw his name, I wrote to him because I had met him, again, networks, I had met him at the Climate Change Fellowship, the one by, by the French embassy. So then I had a rapport. So I reached out, I was like, oh, Wanjohi, I saw you are one of the fellows. He said, oh yeah, what do you need? Okay, so this is what you need to look out for. And then it helped me in some of my research. And then the other thing that I did right is that I told my story properly. I did not masquerade as I can write everything. I was very clear. I love and write about health and science, and this is proof of what I've been able to do. Okay, so that is something. Hi, Joe, Karani. Okay. Okay, so I think you muted on that. And then the other thing that I did was to eliminate jargon. I used plain language. I structured my writing to enhance readability. So, flow, current to older, so that if someone, to the most past event, so that if someone is following through, they know this is where you are, this is where you started. And jargon, as journalists, we are supposed to speak, and Jainde Kisero always says this, thoughts of an expert, words of a gossip. So if you feel like you have to use jargon, go to Google and just type that jargon and say synonym. Find a simpler word for it. Do not, because again, the person reading does not have time to go and do that, to go and look up, what does this complex word mean? They don't have that time. So make it easier for them and for you to get that fellowship or that grant. Tailor your documents. If it is your CV, again, your CV, it's something, your CV is what it tells your story, but you don't have to have 100 stories in one CV. What do I mean? So if you're targeting a fellowship or a grant around travel, for instance, please make your CV show that you're a travel enthusiast. I have traveled and covered stories in 1 and 2 and 3 and 5 areas. Do not go and say, 50 stories. I am a health journalist. I am tailor your CV, even if it means your CV will only have it will be lean because it only sticks to that particular fellowship. Please do it. And then the others could be others, other experiences or other skills. Your cover letter and your application letter has to be tailored. If you're applying to the African Union, it's not the same way as you'd apply to Falling Walls. Falling Walls is in Berlin. African Union is in Ethiopia. How you apply is very different. The objectives, interests, etc. are very different. always include samples of work or your portfolio. Just because you say you're a journalist or a storyteller doesn't mean that we have to believe you. As journalists, we are supposed to be questioning, and always asking, is it really what you're saying, who you are? So always provide samples of your work. And even now it's better because you don't even have to attach PDFs. You can have a platform. So look up Linktree, where you can put all your links to, publications, videos, whatever it is that you do, and then you just provide a link. So if someone clicks on that link, then they go and see all the other things that you've done, and I'll show you that link at the end. Recommendation letters. Just because you say you're a good journalist does not mean that we need to believe you. Can other people attest to you being a good journalist or an excellent, award-winning, flamboyant, high-flying, whatever nice adjectives you choose for yourself? Someone else has to attest to it. Recommendation letters from your bosses, recommendation letters from your peers, recommendation letters from your mentors, recommendation letter from your media house, because some fellowships, they want to find out where will you publish, So if you're a freelance, then you can identify which ones you can easily pitch to and get published. And then the other thing that I did is that I aligned my project to the mission and values of the potential funder. I identify, so just because there's this call for application, say at the French embassy, does not mean that I can't look if the US embassy has similar opportunities. So I identified other funding sources beyond the grant and the fellowship itself, so that in the event that I don't get this one, can I start thinking of who else I could approach in another platform or another area. And then you need to showcase innovation. I showcase innovation, originality, and uniqueness in my application. I did not just say, I want to come. I wish I could show you the application I did for Falling Walls. I didn't say, I want to come for the fellowship because I am good at what I do. No, I said, I want to come because I look forward to seeing or participating in so-and-so's presentation. So I look, in part of the research, I looked at, the program, who was going to be speaking. Are they speaking in an area that I'm passionate about? Then I spoke about it in my cover letter, so that you're not just a stray person walking in and saying, give me a scholarship, give me a scholarship. They're giving a scholarship because you actually are interested. I'm putting money to you. I'm investing my time, resources on you. Why should I pick you and not someone else? So, and my uniqueness, etc. And then before I submitted, I shared this application, idea to some of my mentors. The people who are doing my recommendation letters, I also told them, please, can you check for me this cover? Does it make sense? And where they said, Eunice, this does not make sense, cut it, edit, and took feedback. Sometimes as storytellers, as writers, we want to die with our idea. We're like, I'm the one who came up with it. People need to acknowledge it. Sometimes the idea is not 100%. And sometimes somebody else can build on it and make it better. So allow for people to polish it. That said, just because I have won, 11 awards fellowships, does not mean that I did not send many others. I got so many other rejections. Like there's one to date. I feel like maybe I should have done a better application, or I should have. It's called the Notebook. So basically, it's a science-based fellowship where they give you grants. I think for 6 months or so. I can't remember the details, but they wrote back and they say no thanks. Another one I wrote at World Science Journalist Federation. I think they were looking for people to train around science, and I thought I put my best foot forward, but they said no. But that didn't mean that I didn't stop applying, or I didn't take a step back and say, okay, let me catch a breath and ask myself, do I want to continue applying for these particular ones, or how do I become better? So you build resilience and persistence even in the face of rejection, and this will happen. Rejection will happen. Not everyone understands health or understands science or understands travel or whatever else that you're doing. So when they reject your application, it's not you that they're rejecting. It is probably, what you're pitching to them, but it has nothing to do with me as Eunice or you as whoever you are. So don't ever feel like, oh no, I have applied to the Media Council, Media Council Awards, and I always get rejected. Maybe it's not you, by the way. Maybe it's the other people who you're competing with who put their best foot forward. So accept rejection. Be resilient and persistent even in rejection. Okay. So now that you know how I did it, now I want us to look at, how do you apply, and I'll mention 3 fellowships that you can look up. I don't know if you're doing well on time, Rose.
Yes, you are good on time.
Okay, sawa. So I'm just taking a bit just to look at if there are any questions. Okay, so questions were on your CV. Do you add, so that's from Linda, do you add your fellowship experience? Is it under work experience? No, have a section, where you're going to call fellowships and awards, because it's just that it's not necessarily your work experience. So have a section. Again, trust me, you can have a 4-page CV that has all these things, but then again, which, for this CV, which fellowship do you want to amplify vis-a-vis another? Okay. And then how do you ensure to include both fellowships and work experiences, especially when some organization insists on a 1-page CV? Links are your friend. Links to your LinkedIn profile, links to, if it's Falling Walls, and, like Falling Walls, they put your name on their website. Include a link to that fellowship. So you can say, Falling Walls 2016 fellowship fellow, then a link to that. So then if someone clicks on it, then they go to that. So then again, it helps to gives you a recommendation, because it's like a recommendation letter for you without you saying, I went for this thing. It is there in your CV. So if it's a 1-page CV, play around with links, make sure that, you only share what you think will get you that fellowship or grant. Do you mind showing me or us how to apply a successful grant? About to. Okay. Someone says thoughts of expert, Rose. And then Scovian says, oh, the notebook rejected my application last year too. So we are many. It's misery loves company. So it's good to know that it's not just me. Again, it's not you as Eunice or you as Scovian. It could be other things that, maybe this time they're not looking at that geographical area or whatever else. So don't ever feel like, oh, these guys don't like me as Eunice. No. So one of the problems, Rose asked, one of the problems I've encountered as an editor is when I'm asked about my writing samples. How do I go about this? As an editor, I know, because you're always cleaning other people's copy, you're always, editing other people's What I will say is this: you contributed to that publication. Include it, include the PDF, including, I think in the newspapers, usually they have a section where they say, the sectional editors are. So you include that, whatever nice thing you edited, and then include a link either to, that says that you're one of the editors, or that page, I think is the insight page where they have the details of the photo editor, blah, 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 include it there. So that then you can show that indeed I was part of this production. So, and I know sometimes editors, people, you're the one who's clapping for people at the back and nobody knows about you, but it's okay for you to say, I actually did this. Because at the end of the day, you're not just talking about your skills, what is overt, what people can see, but also the silent ones that nobody ever celebrates about. So please always include that. And I think also the other thing that could also help, sometimes I see some articles, they'll say, they'll say the journalist is blah, 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 and then it was edited by, Rose Nganga. So sometimes that could also help. I don't know if it's possible if you have the house cell, blah, 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 but you can check and see. Linda is asking, also talk about interviewing for fellowships and scholarships. How is it different from job interviews? And what are some of the tips you can share for these interviews? Fortunately, for fellowships, they don't ask you for an interview. It's just what you apply. They get back to you. You're in, you're out. Period. There's no application for that. For scholarships, unless it's not like the Chevening and the others, then you go for an interview. But for me, for those opportunities I've had to write, I've not had to go for like unless I'm doing a job application, then I've had to go for a job interview. But I think maybe things have changed. I mean, I left the newsroom in 2017. Things might have changed. Now people are being called for interviews. But for any interview, your best foot forward. Think about it as if you're applying for a job. How do you prepare yourself for a job? You don't go there and say, oh, I'm good, take me. No, you go there prepared psychologically, mentally, physically. You have your proof points, etc. So think about it the same way, But then now for a fellowship or a scholarship is, I need this opportunity because this is what it's going to do for my career, for my, my passion, etc. Job interview because I need I'm keen to bring on board my skill sets, blah, blah, blah. So they might look like they're similar, but they're very different. I hope that answers your question. Okay. Then now I'll move to someone as how do I apply? Now that I know the opportunities out there, how do I apply? And so, okay, so of course, I'll start off with the following walls. So let me see if I can open this. How do I apply? Let me see. Okay, so hope you can still see my screen.
Yes,
Thumbs
we
up.
can.
Good stuff. Okay, so for falling walls, so this is how, okay, let me put this one down here so that you can see. Okay, so falling walls apply now. So, you know, this is why, this is when it would be in November. Why falling walls? You need to ask yourself, sometimes don't just apply for things just because people are applying for things. Ask yourself, why do they call them falling walls? I'll give you a tip. Falling walls is in relation to the, you know, the falling of the Berlin walls, okay? And it fell down during these dates. So in 1991. So that's, so as a result, they went with this one. But then even for you, as you know what this falling walls is about, then now even when you're doing your application, you're going to be speaking to them in those terms. So they see you took your time to research, etc. So you don't just apply just because, oh, someone has sent it to me, I need to apply it right now. Take your time, read through, go through the form, everything so that you know. Okay, so remember the eligibility, who may apply. International, so that puts all of us in there, and German media with a proven track of journalists' record. Okay, proven. So you need to show proof that you're a journalist. Don't say you're a journalist and the last article you did was 2019. No, if you're a journalist, you keep writing. So you need to prove that you've actually been doing it. If it's a grant, you know, if they ask, you know, that you've been able to do whatever it is in this particular area, you need to show you've been doing it. Okay. Applicants are expected to research and publish on a chosen topic related to Falling Walls Science Summit. There are no restrictions on specific media areas or the form of publication. So that's a good rider. So you can go through and see where, you know, which topics you could write about. How to apply. Send your application documents in one PDF to that email by at this time. They didn't tell you to send it in Word. They didn't tell you to in PDF in one. So you need to know how to combine PDFs, your CV, your samples, whatever you put for, whatever, one PDF. So your cover letter, your CV, everything, and you can combine PDFs online. If you didn't know, go just literally search combine PDF, and you upload everything, combine, save it as, you know, in your name, and then send it to this email by this date, not the 2nd of September, not the 3rd of September, by the 1st of September, sticking to the rules. List of applications. So they don't want you to show them your certificates from when you're in primary school. They're very clear. Your cover letter and your research plan. So 1 to 1.5 pages of your preferred topic, which you'll see just below, including planned publication date and media contact. Planned, meaning it's not, you do not have an exact date. So my advice would be, don't say I'll publish 1 week after Falling Walls. No, say in the next 3 months, I would have published 1 or 2, something like that. Give yourself leeway, because you know newsroom and how stories can die the moment they get in and it was laid out and something else happens and the story is killed. So give yourself timelines and see, even if you don't get, it doesn't get published in this particular publication that you wanted, where else can you repurpose it and pitch it to someone else? Okay. Okay. So the full list is below. Short CV of your journalistic career, including journalism grants, awards. Journalistic career, they didn't tell you to tell them about the time when you were a teacher. Journalistic career. So you have to stick to the rules. Maximum 3 examples of your journalistic work within a field of science. Not for you to share with them photos or samples of your work when you're covering politics. Unless that politics, it has something to do with science, okay? Stick to what they require. So all these documents in one PDF. Then they tell you, this is the criteria now. A jury of scientists and communicators will choose and inform by the 8th. So a week after you submit, you will be told if you would have made in accommodation and travel, Okay, so they'll do that. We'll arrange accommodation, and they actually do some really good accommodation. We said in a very nice hotel, and can act as they'll give you a letter for your visa. And then now they're saying you take care of your flights. Before, during my year, they paid for everything. Literally just had to show up and go and tell stories. So things change. I mean, now this is where then you bring in, remember what I mentioned about who else are you looking for grants in addition to the one that you've seen. So you apply, you make submission, then you go look for within the media house, can they cover your travel? Or they can, okay. If they can't, is there another grant that you can apply for you to go? And so you can go for one fellowship, but it is funded by different other grants. So be aware of that. And the moment you get the confirmation that you're in September, October, so by November, you need to have gotten the flight. So you have a bit of months for you to scout and find people to fund for your travel. COVID information, I don't need to go into that. About the Falling Walls Science Summit, so they'll tell you Falling Wall, This year speakers include, look these people up. They don't put this information here so that their site is filled up with people's names. They put this up so that you can look at which of these people helps you with your cover letter. Which of these people do you want to interview? And by the way, in fact, I've just seen Max Planck Institute. This particular institute is very interesting because these are the guys, they work with the Kenya Institute of Primate Research to do something around embryo transplants. I'm happy to share a story that I did. And these guys worked very closely with the Kenyan counterparts. It's a science topic of around uterus transplants that were first tested on primates in Kenya. So a Kenyan monkey had an uterus transplant that then helped the world to know how to do transplants. So seeing opportunities for you to link what Kenya contributes to the larger science discussions. So look them up, see what does Benjamin do? Why would you be interested in going to see what he's going to talk about, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And then now the topics, so that then you know what exactly you're going to be pitching for these areas. Okay. If for whatever reason, your topic is not here, can you sit back and ask yourself, is there any other way I can do something different that is tied to these topics? So you see, it's a wide array of opportunities for you to think about. Do you want to do science and innovation? Do you want to do climate? I mean, these are all topics that we all cover in our newsrooms or we tell stories around. So there's an opportunity for you to look at. And then previous fellows, then it tells you who are the previous ones, and you see, and if there's someone who is a Kenyan or blah, 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 you go to them. So, and why I said we should actually, a moment of silence for Merab was one of the fellows. She actually went after me. I went in 2016, she went in 2017. If Merab was around, I'm sure the journalists who are here would, you read through her profile and you can reach out to her, because I think there's a part where they give you the contact details. So then you go, write to her, and ask her, how did you do it? Blah, 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 blah. So here she tweets at, so then you can talk to her. Unfortunately, Merab is not around, but, there are opportunities for you to reach out to other fellows. So if you look through, you'll see my profile somewhere. So that's how you apply for the Falling Walls. And I'll show you guys the cover letter I did in 2016. This is how I wrote my cover letter. I mean, in spirit of transparency. So then I was 26 years old. I told them, this is my name. I've been writing for 3 years at the time, shortly after campus. I'm a storyteller, keen to, to keep the public informed. I mean, now if I look at it, I'm like, man, I would have written a much better cover letter, but at the time, this was my best. So this fellowship offers that, and these are areas that I enjoy writing about. If selected, I look forward to attending this person's presentation on how his lab uses that. So it shows them you've taken time to research. Okay, thank you for making time, blah, blah, blah. Regards, Eunice. I didn't, this was in one page, just that the spaces, etc. This was my email address at the time while I was in the newsroom. So that is an example of one. Okay, so let me just pull up the next one. Just a second. So that is falling walls. I hope you can see that it's not so difficult for you to apply. You need to have your documents, you need to have your story in order, you need to know why you're applying, and you actually need to know, because sometimes we apply for things just because either you're desperate, or like, man, I've been in the newsroom for too long, I need something different. Please take your time. Applications they drain you of your time, of your energies, and then the rejection that comes after it can be heartbreaking. So take your time and ask yourself, do you actually want to do this, or are you doing it just because? So that's falling walls. Then there's another one I saw yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday when I was doing my research. Okay, let me see if this one will open. So this is an interesting one as well. Sorry. Oh, do I do this? Escape. So this is another one. Call for journalists in residence. Already tells you you're going to be in residence. So that's a commitment that you're going to show up and stay at this institute for 3 to 6 months. This one, they are paying you 6,000 euros. The deadline for application is on this, so that you can go in for the 2024. So then it tells you details. There's someone here, if it's not clear, you can write to, can click and say, write them an email, their mobile number is there. You can always reach out. And then application requirement, cover letter, CV, proof of journalistic work. They don't want masqueraders. They want people who actually do journalistic work. Maximum of 5 samples. The other one was 3. Please send your articles in PDF. If none of the text is in German, please attach a translation of your work in German or English. You write in English, so that should be okay. Unless you're writing for Taifa Leo or any of the vernaculars, then that's a different. If you have sounds, please collect the links to the files in a PDF document. Letter of motivation. How will your time at HITS be spent? Which research group? So for you to be able to answer any of these things, you need to have gone in and asked yourself, you read more about it, you read more about it, so you know, do I actually fit, or do I want to go in? For staff journalists, you need a letter of recommendation from the chief editor or a head of section is required. Any additional, the application is straightforward. So you know what is, and again, you'll get this PowerPoint, so you'll get the links to this. But in the meantime, you can look it up, journalists in residence. So look it up. This is it's good money that they're paying, and for you to, to delve into new areas of research and deepen your knowledge, technical knowledge, and learn about machine learning and methods of data-driven science in Germany. So that's a nice opportunity as well. Then the other one, just click this one. This other one is by the African Union. Sorry. Okay. So the African Union open call for application. Okay, up to the 23rd of July. So what date is today? You have 2 days to apply for this one. Stick to the deadline. It tells you what the objectives are: skill development, networking, access to resources, just what I had mentioned. What is it offering? That. What are the key activities during that fellowship? Tells you on this data. So when you're looking at this, you know what you're committing to. So you don't go there and say, oh no, maybe I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go and do this. You signed up and you said, yes, I will do 1, 2, 3. Okay. Then the thematic tracks. So you provide, these are some of the areas that the fellowship will focus on: gender and women empowerment, trade, agriculture, culture, governance, digital innovation, and regional integration. So you might be a health journalist and you ask yourself, okay, so how do I get in? How does your health story tie to any of these things? If it can be tied to health and digital innovation, please apply, or whatever it is that these guys have said. So you don't, again, make sure that it's not stray, stick to, if health is not tied in, but you can do something else, why not? Try it, apply. So that's it about the African Union one. So look it up. Again, you'll get these slides, so then you know what fellowships are available. Okay, up to that. I don't know if we have any questions. Let me go back to presentation mode now. Okay, so there's that. Now for grants, how do you apply for grants? Let me just move this. There are 4 steps. Determine your objectives. What do you want to do? I want to get a grant to go and cover the impact of Mandamano, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday on education in Makueni. What is the impact? Why is it important? Who will benefit? Why is the research needed? That's your objective. Who is likely to fund for this? Is it the government? Is it your media house? Is it professional organizations, media council, blah, blah, blah. So sometimes for these grants, you don't have to wait for them to announce them. Sometimes you can pitch ideas, grant ideas. Then once you know what you want, where you're going to get funding from, then you submit your proposal. Ask them, or looking, again, as you're doing a research, you can tell, oh, if you want to get a grant from Media Council, these are some of the things they're looking for. Their proposal needs to have this outline. Go prepare a proposal that looks at, specify your budget, complete your application, submit all the required documents. Then once you get the go ahead and the grant, then you start off your research and you move and you proceed and you do whatever needs to be done for that grant. Up to that level, I hope everything is clear. I'll just check now if there is anything on the charts. Okay, so Anja says, yep, okay. For the AU Media Fellowship, can you talk about covering several tracks that merge? So we can look at that. Let me see. We can look at that at the end. Let me just finish and then we can look it up, if that's okay. That's okay, Wahiga. So, okay. Then the next one. So common mistakes people make when you're doing fellowships or grants application, you do not plan for that grant or that fellowship. You woke up, someone sent you, or you're in this Zoom chat, and then you hear, oh, African Union Media Fellowship. You're like, you know what? I'm applying right now. Eunice is talking, even me, I'm on my phone. Please don't do it. Plan. Take time. Take time. Take time. Incomplete or inaccurate applications. I mean, I don't even have to talk about that. Lack of alignment with the funder or the fellowship objectives. And I like that Wahiga has asked if there's the areas to merge. So if you are, you're a journalist who does, a particular area and you cannot see any area of synergies, you don't have to apply. There are many others. And actually, it's my last point, applying for everything. You feel like, I need to apply. You don't have to apply for everything. Only be strategic. And actually being strategic, then it helps you to plan better, to make sure that you have a complete, and you align better with the objectives. Failure to speak to the evaluation criteria. If they say that they're looking for someone who can do 1, 2, 3, and you do not show that you can meet that evaluation criteria, you will be kicked out, because they do not have time for them to go through your application that does not tick any of their boxes. It doesn't have to tick all their boxes, but if it doesn't tick some of the critical ones, then it's a mistake. Lack of supporting evidence or references. If they say reference, recommendation letter, please try and get one. I know sometimes it can be difficult to get an editor to either submit it on time or to even submit a recommendation letter. You work as part of a network. Ask, reach out, and I don't want to put WanaData on the line, but you can write to WanaData, for instance, or any other journalism network, Mesha, etc., and say, I've been a journalist, or can I please get a letter of recommendation from you, Media Council, whichever. You need someone to back and prove that you actually say who you say you are. Okay. For grants, poor or weak budgeting. I've sat in meetings where journalists are applying for grants at the Aga Khan Media School. And someone is asking to go for, I think, 2 months to go, and they're asking for almost, I don't know how many millions or thereabouts. Which media house is going to allow you to go for 2 months? Who has 2 million to give you for one story? You get. So sometimes you have to ask yourself, am I being realistic? And then you ask for a budget where you're asking for, I need 10,000 for a meal per day. In this economy, some things you actually have to ask yourself, would I actually give money for what this person is asking for if I was in their shoes? So, and how do you do good budgeting is you speak to your peers. You look at, you speak to people who've done it before, ask them, how much did you spend for fuel or for transport? Oh, okay, so a matatu or a drive or whatever it is from here to whatever place is going to be this much. But because of inflation, I'm going to add a 10, 15%. It's more realistic than asking for 50,000 for you to take a matatu. You get, it doesn't, so you have to be very, very cognizant and aware of your budgeting. Let submissions, if it is the first, please, it is the first. In fact, some applications, if by the 2359, it clocks like this, it goes 000, it locks out. So even if you are there submitting, you started a draft and you didn't complete, that is how you will not finish that application. So always, my advice always is, if you see, an opportunity, if you see it today, give yourself 3 days. 1 day of research, second day of going through research and ask yourself, am I actually speaking to the asks properly? The third day, putting everything together. And then by the fourth day is when now you've gathered whatever you need to gather, you're putting your application properly. But do not apply hours before the deadline, because that is when everybody else is trying to apply, and then the system is going to crash, and then you won't be able, and then now you start asking the people who send the opportunity, can you talk to the people in that organization? No, we can't. We simply forwarded the opportunity to you, so plan accordingly. And then finally, applying for everything else, for everything. Please do not apply for everything. Be very strategic. You are not for everyone. You are for certain things. So do not, the temptation could be there that even not just for fellowships, even for jobs. Oh, because, I want people to, I need to move from the newsroom. I need to, please be strategic. Don't apply for everything. As much as tempting that might sound or might be, do not. If there are other mistakes, put them on the chat and I'll look them up after. So put them up on the chat. Any other mistakes you might have made and lessons you learned. And so in summary, I already said this, how I did it. You'll get the slides, so I don't need to go into that. The resources for you to get fellowships. For me, I think while I was in the newsroom, the first 3 always came through for me. Grants and fellowships for journalists, and especially the third one, the opportunities. It even tells you which region, if it's a worldwide application, just go in, have an open mind, open eyes, and just go and see what opportunities are there. Some things, in fact, like for the French embassy, the one we did, I think the CFI one, the one we went to Paris, I found it on opportunities. That's why I applied for it. So go in. But then, of course, keep tabs of Africa No Filter on social media, on Twitter, sign up to their mailing list, their newsletters. The Media Council of Kenya, they're always asking for grants. I think right now they're asking for people to apply for internships, falling walls. Even if you don't get this fellowship, keep tabs, because they're always sharing something around scientists who've done 1, 2, 3. So you go in, they're announcing about a scientist in Africa who's done, or a Kenyan scientist. You look up the scientists, which organization do they work in? Oh, they work at Cambridge. Then you probably, when you're at Cambridge site, then you see, oh, they're looking for journalists who can go and cover. So you see, one thing can lead you to another and another and another. So don't just say, oh, I didn't get in, so nothing for me. UN agencies, those ones that you're passionate about. If you write about environment, UNEP is your friend. If you write about health, WHO is your friend. You write about children, UNICEF is your friend. You write about women, UN Women. You see, and that. So look them up. AWDF, African Women Development Fund, they always have opportunities, always have call for applications, look them up. Your sources, your key partners could also give you opportunities. So keep tabs, reach out, and you're not only keeping tabs because of what you can gain and take from them, but also how you can share your skills to make them better. Because sometimes journalists are accused of being very parasitic. You take. I want. What are you giving back? Give back to your key partners, give back to such networks, communities such as WanaData. Give back, because by giving back, people will hear you. People will say, oh, I think also Eunice would be interested in this. That way it opens up doors for you as well. Okay, any other resources that you guys have used, please put them up on the chat. And as journalists, I know sometimes journalists want to, or rather storytellers, some people want to be mean. They don't want to share, I got this from this place, because they think you can steal from them. Imagine there's enough for everyone. You will never exhaust the opportunities that exist out there. So share. And in fact, for me, it's a very deliberate thing I usually do. I share opportunities. Anything, even the ones that I have applied for myself, I share them because I'm like, you know what? I might think I'm the best, but someone else is better and they didn't know. I share them. So just share, even when you feel like, oh, if I share this, someone else will get it. If they get it, you might get another one. Again, there's enough room for everyone. Okay. And then if plan A does not work, the alphabet has 25 more letters. Keep going. You applied for falling walls, it doesn't work, keep going. You applied for the notebook as Scovian and I did, and they said no to us, keep going. You applied for media council, COVID-19 grant, blah, 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 and you did, keep going. Just keep going. Opportunities are there. And do not be, it could easily be, disenfranchised by, you're seeing other people are getting scholarships, but not you. Maybe you need to call yourself into a meeting and ask yourself, what am I not doing right? Am I making rushed applications? Am I not, do my documents have grammar issues or whatever problems that I need to first step back, get someone else to review so that they can give me a fresh insight than what I'm already seeing. So keep going. If plan A does not work, there's B all the way to Z. Keep going, okay? Okay, so I am at the tail end of my presentation. So I want us to just think about these three things. What did you think about this session? What do you feel about this session? And what will you walk away from this session? So you can put that on the chat. Head, I think this was a waste of my time. I think this was amazing. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. I feel I should put in more effort next time. I will walk away with an open mind, whatever it is. Put it on the chat, we'll look at it. And even if you don't put it on the chat, tweet me, tweet me on Twitter or on LinkedIn. If anything resonated with you, share with me. I'm more than happy to engage with you on those platforms. Yeah, okay. And then let's connect. That's my Twitter handle. That's my Gmail. If you have a story idea, or you're thinking, okay, how can I get in touch? I need your thoughts. I need to brainstorm, blah, blah, blah. I'm more than happy to help you. I can't promise that I'll be on standby throughout. I'm a new mom. I am doing 1001 things, but when I do have time, I will check. So that's me. Remember what I told you guys about a link, my link tree. So if you click on this link, you'll get to see all the things that I've done. It's almost like my CV, but on a link. So yeah, so it helps for you to have one place where if it's like your business card, you send it to someone and everything is in one place. So I'll leave this on for a bit, just for you to think about, what did you think about this session? How do you feel about the session? What will you walk away from this session? And then I'm going to pull up sorry, I just discovered I was supposed to put a question mark. The editor and me can't allow that to fly like that. Wahiga had asked, so let me look at Wahiga's question. He said, how the different themes interlinkages. So just quickly, gender and women empowerment, promoting efforts toward economic, financial inclusion of African women. So you need to know what Agenda 2063 is about. They've given you links: gender equity and empowerment strategy, protocol of the women, the Dada Maputo protocol, and the AU. So whatever it is that you're doing, if you work around gender, or you want to do a story around women in the newsroom or women in business, that falls under gender and women empowerment. So go check, see how your story could easily fit into it. Advancing trade, investment, and industrialization, from promoting efforts towards African economic integration in line to the 2023 acceleration of all these terms, the African, I think it's free trade area implementation. So how does whatever it is you're doing is, let's say something like science and industrialization, for instance, it's tied in there. So we have an open mind, see opportunities that the interlinkages: agricultural development, environmental protection, and climate action. So climate change, environment, people, you're covered here. Culture and creative industries and sport development. Creative industries here could be acting, singing, music, the creative economy, blah, 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 culture, art, blah, blah, blah. Vibrant, creative, sports development. So sports, whichever sports, physical, virtual, gaming, etc., everything in there. governance and democracy in Africa, promoting good governance through transparency, accountability, rule of law, strengthening democratic institutions for inclusive and sustainable development. Good governance here is, government, national, county government, local governments, it could be boards, etc., whatever it is that you want to look at around good governance and transparency in there. Transforming Africa through digital innovation, which I think this one is something that all of us should try. If nothing, not for the other opportunities, digital innovation could be something we should all try. COVID taught us we are all part of a digital economy, digital, and Musa, please mute. Okay, so digital innovation. So Africa Digital Transformation Strategy, look it up, Africa for the Fourth Industrial Revolution, cybersecurity and personal data. We all are at risk of cybersecurity and personal data leak. So look it up. Digital inclusion, how do we ensure that we leave no one behind, making sure that everyone and anyone who needs to get onto a similar call, learn online, work online, is included in that digital, inclusive society. Okay, and then data policy frameworks, how is data managed, for governments, for institutions, for organizations, for corporates, blah, blah, blah. How is data? So that could be an area for you. You want to learn how to do data policy frameworks or to tell stories around data policy frameworks in a more systematic, informed way as guided by the African Union Vision Agenda 2063. And then regional integration and economic cooperation, advancing a unified Africa through free movement, fostering economic collaboration and sustainable development for shared prosperity. Here, this is simple. For the East African community people, if you want to go to Uganda, you only need your ID. What does that mean for you? You don't have to, if you don't have a passport, doesn't mean that you can't engage, go for conferences, attend, learn in Uganda, in Rwanda, in Tanzania, in South Sudan, in DRC, because DRC is one of the other AU members. So you see, opportunities, you just need to step back and ask yourself, in very simple terms, what is this asking me to do? So you choose which one is your forte or your interest, whether you've written about it or you aspire to, then you focus on it and you run with it. Okay. I hope, Wahiga, that is well answered. Let me just check. I'm going to check the chat. As you think about what you think, what you feel, and what you walk away from this session. So let me look at the chat now. Okay, wait. Okay, I think I've covered that. What about the people who practice journalism, but they have no certificates or media-related disciplines? Karanja, I'm sure you've seen, nowhere did they ask you to share your certificates. Nobody ever, by the way, nobody ever asks you for your master's or your bachelor's or whatever in media. I wasn't trained in media. I didn't study media in campus. I actually studied political science and communications. I became a journalist, but not once have I applied for any field, unless it's a scholarship where I was asked to submit my master's or my bachelor's or whichever. Nobody ever asks, by the way. So that should not limit you. Okay. Joy is asking, do this grants fellowship indicate an eligible age? I'm a veteran journalist. Some, yes, some will say under 35, some will say, 15 or 18 to 40, but some don't even have an age restriction, especially I've seen most international ones, even here in Kenya, they don't have any of those. Apply, like your age does not hinder you from going to do your stories. It doesn't. And age is nothing, as cliche as they sound, but a number, so apply, unless it's very explicit. Unless they say we are looking for young people, at that age, then that's a different thing. Okay. So please apply, Joe. Don't hold yourself back. I see Rose has shared opportunities for WanaData opportunities. Please sign up. Hi, Lord. Say nothing but the truth. Keep going and be strategic. Yes, always be strategic. You are not for everyone or for everything, for that matter. Okay. This was an eye-opener. Hi, Ajema. You say I have to keep going. An alphabet has 26 letters. So only A said no. You still have the other 25 to go. Okay. So most welcome, Fatima. Happy I could assist. Does Linktree work like Macrack, Eunice? So to some extent, yes. Macrack, usually you have no, okay, Macrack, it auto-populates the moment it picks your name. It picks your name and, and says you're a journalist in this area. You can also include your Macrack link on your Linktree. I'll actually show you guys my Linktree so you can see, we can just go through it. Okay. Wahiga saying link theme 2 connects to 6 and 7. Yes, so those links, I mean, the themes are they can interlink. Okay, I think I'm overwhelmed by this wealth of information. Oh my goodness, I feel sufficiently prepared to apply for the following roles, and others I'll walk away. Okay. Oh, I think I'm overwhelmed by this wealth of information. Oh, I'm sorry about being overwhelmed, but you can get the slides and you can go through them, Rose. I feel sufficiently prepared. Awesome. I'll walk away with thoughts of an expert was about gossip. Glad that resonated with you. Okay, thanks, Wahiga. Yeah, so I think what I will do at this point, let me see. I don't think there's any more feedback. Let me just, okay, so let me open my Linktree.
As you open your Linktree, Eunice, I had a couple of questions that came to my DM. Can the amount being offered in the fellowship, sometimes they detail the amount, give you an indication of the amount of work that you will need to put into, or is it just different organizations offer different amounts?
No, I think different organizations offer different amounts, and the amount really does not. It could be both ways, actually. Let me take that back. Sometimes if they offer you like the 6,000 euros we've seen, maybe that would mean, they're paying for your time. You're going to be there for all, the organization that actually respects journalists' time. They say, we're taking them from their workstation for this number of blah, 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 and they're doing 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So we need to, compensate them accordingly. The other that will give you a stipend that is enough for you to buy your lunch. The other that will, so it really depends on what the ask is. The more the money, most likely they're trying to, because they know they've taken you away from your workstation. But that should not translate to, because they're giving me little money, then I work less. No, you have a reputation, you have your name, give your all. You don't know who's watching. Again, you don't know who's watching, you don't know who's reading. So if you're supposed to go in and you need to do something for the next 3 months, and you need to do 1, 2, 3, please do it and do it well. Yeah, so in terms of how much you're paid, sometimes it really varies. And then it's very clear once you get the contract. If you're signing a contract, then you know what are my deliverables. And if they're not explicit, ask, what are the deliverables for this role, so that you don't go thinking I only need to do this much and they ask for this much, or you overpromise, then you underdeliver. So my advice always is ask the deliverables, then you prepare accordingly. Yeah, all right. Let me see. Yeah, I see there's a chat, or Rosa said, please use this form. So I know people have asked about, okay, so this is how Linktree looks like. So it's just a Linktree with my name. These are all my social media handles. So that's my Twitter, that's my TikTok, I'm on TikTok. That's my Spotify, where I do podcasts. That's my YouTube, where I have a channel. This is my LinkedIn. So if you need to write me an email, it goes to kalunde@gmail. And this is my Apple Podcasts, where I have a podcast. It has your name, how you define yourself, how many hours, blah, blah, what are you keen about? And then now you can put in different links. So if you want, say, to read my profile, let's say something like this, I'll just open this, whatever, I was published as part of my fellowship here, then you can read my stories on Medium, you can see you can watch, you can listen, whatever. So it's a one place where you can see everything that you need. So let's say if I want to open my LinkedIn, so then if someone gets this link, then they can go in and then they'll see stuff about me. And this is a free version, but I'm not paying for any of these things or any of this link. So set yourself up. And then let's say, so I've opened a couple of links. So this was an article when I used to have long hair. It was done by Wanja and Amina, was done for the Nation, a Q&A about who I am, blah, blah, blah. So I included that link on Linktree. This was an article that I did as my fellowship COVID HQ. Remember the one I told you about MasterCard and Africa CDC? So I wrote something in 2021, Okay, and then, and then now what I wrote about that. This is my LinkedIn. Oh, sorry, that page does not exist. No, I actually exist on LinkedIn, guys. I don't know what happened. It's loading. Yeah, so that's me. So that's my profile. It shouldn't have come like that, but anyway, that's my profile. And then, sorry, if I want, so I contributed to this particular journalist resource, which I'm more than happy to share the link with. It's really nice just to know how to report about gender-based violence reporting. So I contributed to this book at the Journalism Initiative on Gender-Based Violence. Yeah, so it's a US, institution. So like you can put in so much. So you can easily embed that on your platforms, on your Twitter or wherever else that you need to embed it so that someone can easily find you. So let's say if I go onto my Twitter, and I'm in closing now. So that, and then my Linktree. So anybody who wants to see anything, they go onto my site and they can see everything about me there. Yeah, so I think I'll stop at that. You see, how can I create it? So literally just search Linktree, create Linktree. Oh, okay, help us to create. Okay, Sawa. So, so now this is what you do. Sorry, Rose, I know I was supposed to talk about fellowships and funding, but now we are doing.
It's all part of being discovered, so it's fine.
Linktree. Okay. Linktree. Okay. So you click on this. I don't know if it's going to go to mine, but yeah. So everything you are in one simple link in bio. Okay. So, and if you look at it on the mobile, this is how it looks up. So you come here and then you sign up. Yeah. Just as you'd sign up Twitter or whatever else. And then now so this is mine because I use this, but then you can put your details. Let's say Fatuma Mze. Okay. So it shows you that's available. Then you put your email address, then you create your account. And then it sends you a link, then you follow the steps. It's pretty straightforward. So yeah, and then let me see if I can sign in on mine. Will it show my password? I don't know. Let me see if I can sign up on mine. Let me see. Yeah, it doesn't show my password, so then I just log in. So once you log in, sorry.
There's another question as we wait for it to load. How do you get, or how do you identify good or valuable networks to get into? Because sometimes you're thrown into so many WhatsApp groups that only share memes and I don't know, forwarded messages. So how do I identify actually useful WhatsApp, if I may say that?
Yeah, I think the trick there is what do you want? If you are okay with just getting memes every day, all day, then stick there. But if you want to grow, move. Like for me, when I left the newsroom to go into comms, I mean, I thought I knew what communications was, but I didn't know about communications. So what I did, I looked up networks, communications. So how do this, I'll reach out to someone on LinkedIn who is a communications person. I'll tell them, oh, sorry, I see that you're a member of the PRSK, Public Relations Society of Kenya. How do I join? That's a network. And then I say, oh, but I still want to keep ties with my media sisters. I'm still on WanaData, but I also want to be in AMWIC. So I'm very strategic. I mean, at the end of the day, it boils down to what do you want? Do you want to hang out with people who will constantly be saying, oh, Kenya ni ngumu, things are bad, things are not working out, highly likely you'll become one of them. You'll start ranting, but do you want to be in a group of people who say, oh, by the way, I got a scholarship, I applied online, and this is what I did. Here's a link, you can also try. I would rather be in places where I am growing than a place where we're just lamenting and we're not doing anything about our situation. So how you do it, if you're put in a group, I mean, you can easily live. You're not in prison. And you live very majestically, there's a word like that. And you say, this is not working for me. You tell the admin, thank you for thinking of me for here, but being here, but I don't think this is working for me. Step out. Ask networks, ask the people that you admire, what which other groups are you part of? How do I, can I join your group, or is there a way or a process for me to do 1, 2, 3? Asking sometimes opens doors for you. So that would be my advice. If it's not working for you, leave. And it's many things. Leave bad WhatsApp groups, leave bad networks. If it's not working, just leave. You only have one life. There's no rehearsal. There's no, oh, okay, now I have learned my lesson, I'll come back. There's nothing like that. You miss out, you mess out. Just jipange, move, and just move. Yeah, that's what I would say. Let me see. Okay, Fatuma, you got it. Sasawa. Most welcome, Majema. So I will open up my thoughts. Most welcome, Turea. Happy to know that I've helped. We're deliberate at cleaning out junk. Yes, and phone book, if you don't, jichunguze. It's the same way you should clear. Exactly. Yeah. Very true. Okay. Anything else? Oh, I was showing you guys how the back end of Linktree looks like. So you can come here and add a link. So you paste whatever link you want. Is it that? You choose, and then you just add it. Just that. And then there are links that are not active. So you see, so you can see this one is active. If it's not active, then you just switch it off. So I had a podcast on Anchor. So it's there, but it's not visible. So it's inactive. Yeah. So it tells you how many clicks you had, how many clicks, and I think this is it per day clicks, or is it throughout? I'd have to check, but yeah, that's pretty much how Linktree works. Okay. Any other question before? I'm supposed to be sharing. I'll share with you guys the PowerPoint, which Rose is going to circulate to everybody. I can stop sharing now. Yep. Wow, many people. Oh my goodness.
We had quite a session. Actually, some people have dropped off, I think, because we are like 5 minutes past time.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, that was such a good session. I believe people did get quite some bit from it. I've shared two links on the chat. One for opportunities, which Code for Africa, so includes jobs and fellowship. So one of the other things we do get, Eunice, which is very funny, is how the people at CFA who review the grants always come back, like you get grants and fellowships are being re-advertised because they're not getting people who are not, they're not getting the right people for those fellowships. So maybe, I don't know, maybe that's something else. Is it people are not seeing the fellowships, or is it that they're not following the instructions?
Wow. I think it could be a combination of factors. Of course, one, it could be people don't know about them. So maybe there might be an opportunity there for not just sharing and putting it on the website, maybe even sending it to individual people and tell them, oh, Eunice, by the way, we have this particular grant, happy if you could apply, or if you could share with your networks or something, depending on the criteria you guys have. So it's more targeted. Otherwise, not everyone remembers which site to go forward. Sometimes it's easier if or even a newsletter, if you get it, or even embedding some of these opportunities in some strategic newsletters. I forgot to mention another great platform is Baraza Media, where they send all these nice opportunities. So you can even embed, you can write to Baraza Media and tell them, oh, by the way, we actually have this open grant. Please mention us in your newsletter or something. So then you don't know who's reading, you don't know who might be forwarded that newsletter. So that's one, maybe people are not seeing, but the other bit could be people are probably not doing a good application. If you really want to get funding, please, please, please take time. Don't be in a rush. The temptation could be there, oh, I need, and if possible, even if you see it on the day of the deadline, put your documents together, then step back and then come back. You will discover where you should have said written, you've written right. Where you should have said, opportunities, you've written opportunity with an S at the end. Like, just step back. Don't be in a rush. The temptation could be there, I need to do it. Don't, step back and then come back. Even in writing, for the writers in the room, you don't write everything at one go. You write, you step back, you look at it, you come back and say, oh, maybe the script needs a bit of touch on 1, 2, 3. So that would be my advice, that you need to do a good application. And these contacts are available. Most times those fellowship, most grants, they'll say, in case of any clarification, write to us, write us an email. Those numbers, those emails are not there because they just put them there just for just. If you feel like you need clarification, reach out, and reach out because you've done your research and then now you want to add onto what you already know. Yeah. Hope
yes,
that
I see,
answers.
Ruth. Yeah, that answers the question. So in that case, so WanaData does share, other than its opportunities that are offered for Code for Africa, they also do share other opportunities that would be useful for journalists. So if you want to join the WanaData community, I will be posting a link, a join form where you can fill and join. Ruth, your hand is up as we wind up. We've said wind up for the last 30 minutes. Go ahead, Ruth.
Give a testament. There was one fellowship, a training that Eunice was conducting, and it was still on the same about grants. And I followed her advice and I applied for Code for Africa. Happy to let you know that I was accepted this year. So thank you very much, Eunice, also very, what would I say? You are clearly a destiny shaper for that, and I'm really learning a lot as well. So yeah, thank you.
Ruth, what
was my colleague?
that?
Code for Africa. It's Code for Africa and a Jigsaw Fellowship.
Oh, the Jigsaw Fellowship. Okay, perfect. All right. Eunice, last words?
Last words. Okay, wow. Nice to hear from you, Ruth. Ruth was my colleague at Nation, and I see familiar names. I see Beryl. I see people that I've interacted with, I've worked with. Oh, hi, Wanja. I see people that and of course Lords and Angela as well. So thank you guys and Scovia and all of you. Thank you so much all for joining. Thank you for for sharing and hi Helen. I responded to your WhatsApp today. Yeah, so I'm happy, I'm truly grateful for this opportunity to come share some of the lessons that I've gained along the way, and the things that I've learned and the mistakes that I made. Some things I should never have put in my applications, but I did. I'm a Christian woman, single. What does that have to do with the application? So sometimes we make some mistakes unknowingly, but now when you learn better, you know better, you act better. That's my prayer, that for all of you who are thinking of doing applications, be it fellowships, be it grants, be it even a job application, that you put your best foot forward and don't be in a rush. Take your time. Don't do everything because you want to get yourself out of whatever place you are in. Be very strategic. But above all, happy to connect with you guys. Let's follow each other on the various platforms. Write if you need pointers, ideas. But then write when you already know what you want. Please don't write to me and say, I need a mentor. I don't work like that. I don't just mentor just because you want a mentor. What exactly do you want me to do for you? Or how do you see me helping you? If there's someone else who can do it better, I will tell you, speak to so-and-so, not me. At this time, I'm held up. But when I do have time, more than happy to assist. And for those that are meeting for the first time, I hope I was worth your mid-morning. I know I'm standing in between yourself and lunch. So I'm hoping that we get to cross paths again. Hi, Evelyn, I see you. I hope we get to cross paths again one of these days. And if you ever apply for a fellowship or a grant and you actually get in, please let me know. More than happy to celebrate with you. And if the opportunities, share. Don't hold on. Don't say this is for me and for me alone. Because if someone else had said the same thing, you wouldn't have seen it. So share, be open to share and open to help where you can. I think that's it from me. I could go on and on. So I think let me just stop myself there, please.
Thank you, Eunice. You also forget to mention that you know me, not from this session, but from before.
So I was saving the best for last. So I knew Rose in 2011. For those who have not heard this story, I actually recruited Rose for a journalism opportunity, a writer. Then I used to be an intern at an organization called HIV Free Generation under Path. And so my role as a media intern was to find journalists or storytellers and link them to media houses. So linking them to NTV, to the Standard, Nation FM. And that's how Rose and I came into contact. And we've been in touch and friends since, and happy to see the great things you're doing for journalists, with journalists at Code for Africa. So it's really nice to see the growth. Yeah. Then as a student, now as a professional. So it's really nice.
Thank you so much, Eunice, for this great session. Thank you for staying, everyone for staying for the extra 15 minutes. Please, if you haven't filled the attendance, please fill it, because that's what I'll use to be sending you the resources, both the recording and the slides that Eunice will be sharing with us. They have all the links to everything she's talked about, and I'll add the links to everything else that was discussed outside of her presentation. Also, if you want to join WanaData, I will be sending you a form to join the WanaData forum there. For the WanaData fellowships, we usually give first priority to WanaData members. So if you are a WanaData member and fellowships come across, you will be considered first before the other people are considered. So you should consider joining WanaData. I will add you to the WhatsApp group once you fill the form. Otherwise, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Eunice. You've been such a resource to us. Enjoy your afternoon. For those who are in the western side of Africa, enjoy your morning. And I'll see you next time. I'll also share once the blog is up from today's session. Otherwise, have a good afternoon and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Have
and
a
also
nice Friday.
Nice weekend.